Hello explorers and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about MDM, a mobile device management solution. And we were looking into this at our company because we had a customer that needed an MDM solution, and we were starting with using Knox, this Samsung product, and it's pretty nice. It has a lot of features, but their support is abysmal and getting things done took forever. We've been on it for 6 months and have gone nowhere. So we wanted to look into something else and we found Headwind. There may be a lot of other ones out there, but Headwind was pretty easy to get started with and running. And we set up a prototype for it, and I thought that maybe it could be interesting for someone else how to set it up and what it's actually all about. It's a product that is open source, the code is available, but some of the plugins are proprietary and you need to get a license for those. So a lot of the management you can do, but you can't really remote or use it in a kiosk mode or anything like that. But let's install it and see what we get. So if I switch over to my screen here, we have this command. I will install first off Git to get the source code. We will install AAPT so we can rebundle and repackage Android APKs because it's a mobile device management for Androids. We are gonna install Tomcat because it's a web app built in Java running on the Tomcat engine. And then we need Maven in order to build packages, and Postgres is the database of choice. I did a try to actually port it over to MySQL because our fleet is running mostly off MySQL and we have a lot of both knowledge and we have clusters of MySQLs and so on. So it would be much easier for us, but going that route was a true hassle and I really didn't get it to work. So I'm not recommending trying that step out, but running with Postgres is a pretty simple way to go, and it's a very good database, of course, but I need to know more about Postgres. So if you're interested, there might be a video about Postgres clustering in the future. So we'll wait for this installation to be done and I will get back to you. And we are almost done here, and I can continue to say that they recommend that we run this on Ubuntu Linux 2204. This install that I'm doing is a pure Debian install. So I have just a Debian clean install of Bullseye, and that will work just fine for you. So not required to have Ubuntu, maybe it works easier on Debian built systems. Now when we install curl, it's not a requirement for the product, but I will use it in order to verify that our Tomcat is up and running. So I will run curl 8080 and we can see here that Tomcat has been installed and it works. So we are done with that. So let's clone down the package here, the server. So git clone and at GitHub HMDM server, and we clone that down. It's not a big repository. We will get into that directory. We will do a copy of an example build properties file, and then we will edit that build property file and look into the different properties here. So here we have the URL that we will use, and it's localhost. In my case, when we installed it, we have multiple web servers, multiple database servers, and so on. So I had to change this out to use the actual host. But localhost works fine for just this example test here. I will change this to top secret. That's an example that they use. So that's the password I will use for the database. This base directory is where they will store the internal data. I will use temp for the moment, so it can actually create directories here. The important part is that it uses that directory to store files, so the Tomcat user and group needs to be set on under the different directories that you use here. And another thing is that they actually write a log file there and lock that log file. So if you are running multiple database servers, you might, or multiple web servers, you might have an issue with logging that you need to look into. I had to change some code there. Secure enrollment is if you want to ensure that nobody else can use that enrollment procedure here. I set that to 0, otherwise you need to have a signature in order to enroll. And here we have the hash that we'll use in communications. And it says change me here, so you're very tempted to do that. But unless you build your own Android APK for the communication, you will not be able to use this, because this is pre-compiled in that version that it will download. So if you change this, you need to recompile that software as well. So not changing this for this example here, but in a production environment, you will, if you buy a license or a trial, you will get a new hash secret that they have bundled into their client. Or if you want, you can build your own client and change this hash secret. And then we have this role org admin ID, should be 2, don't change that. Plugins directory, I will change that to the temp directory as well, so I don't have to do anything with that. A signal file for the completion of the initialization, good to have that, put that in the temp as well. Here we have the command apt. If you don't have that in your path, you might be required to put in exactly where it's located here. Then we have logging for HTML, where the XML file is located. I didn't change that. I'm not really sure why they put in this plugin device log persistence config class here. It's only one available, but maybe in the future they will build one for, let's say, MySQL, and then it's good that you can change it here. Then we have the MQTT notification server URL local. This is not really true, because it actually is what will be told to the clients to connect to, and it doesn't work if you don't have a real address here. And in my case, when I had a load balancer in front of it, I had to add it to the host file and so on, and keep a different URI and so on in order to get this to work. And then this port needs to, of course, be available to devices in order for this to work. Authentication will be using here in order to communicate, and that is using this hash. And then we have the message delay. You can change this to a lower number if you don't want to wait for a second for a message to go through. But I think this is a pretty good mean value if you don't need a really quick response on your device. And then we have fast search SHARS 5, and if you need, you could set up an SMTP host here in order to send emails if you want to recover passwords and so on. So let's save that here. Next up, we're gonna build the server, and that's done with Maven. So Maven install will build the server, and it will take a little while here just to build this. The first time it takes longer than next builds, so I will get back to you when this is done. And it's almost done here. The reason it takes a little while is because of all the Tomcat dependencies that are required to be downloaded and installed on your system. The next the build that you do, all those will of course be downloaded already, so you don't have any problems with that. You could, during this process, see a warning or an error that your node installation is too old. Don't really mind that. You see it here, the error message that it's old. It doesn't really matter, and I think that they have built the system to require that version anyway. So if you do an upgrade later on, it might have a different node version, of course. And this builds a WAR file, and that is a web application repository. It's the same like when you build other Java application and you have the jar file, the Java application repository, but here we have the web application repository instead. And that is what we want to install later on. But first off, we will prepare our Postgres. So Postgres We'll change over to that user with sudo su Postgres. We'll go into PSQL, so that's the client for Postgres. We will create a user here with the name of HMDM and top secret as the password. We will create a database that has that user as its owner. So it's pretty much create database HMDM with owner MDM. So that will create that database, and then /q to quit out of this, and I will also quit the user. And the last command we will do is install the software. So this will install the WAR file and also run a bunch of database queries. So if we go in here, it asks first for language, either English or Russian. Then we will specify the Postgres host, and this is only used by this script, so that's why we specify it here. In the properties file, we specified what the server will actually use. So localhost, the port is 5432 for Postgres, the database HTML, the user is HTML, and here we had top secret as our password. Of course, you use a different password for a production environment. And then we will have the Headwind storage directory. We will use the Tomcat work here. And then we will need HTML directory for scripts. So, and here we also want to say if we want to use HTTPS. And if we put it in here, it will suggest for you to set up Let's Encrypt and so on, so it will help you with that. In my case, on this local host, I can't really use that anyway. I don't have any domain name, don't have access from the internet, so I will just put HTTP here. And then we'll have the public IP of this server here. And we will put in the port of 8080, that's the Tomcat port. If you have a load balancer in front of it, so you get port 80, or if you change Tomcat, so it used port 80 or 443, you leave this blank here, but in my case I will put in 80. On the Tomcat I want to use the root, so just slash of the host, otherwise you can have a path if you want. And then we don't set up any SMTP because I don't want any email functionality at this point. And then it asks me if everything is correct. And here you need to just press the letter Y, and I have done wrong in the few previous runs, and if I put in any other letter here, it will just quit out and you will start over. So be aware that you actually press Y and not T or any other character here, because it will just fail and then you will need to start over. So now it's undeployed any other previous version. I guess there weren't any. And then it will set this XML file here. And this contains all the properties that we set earlier. So in the future, if you need to change any of those properties, keep this config file in mind. That's where you need to do changes for this server. And here is where it deploys that WAR file. So if you build a new WAR file in the future, you will copy it into this directory in order to deploy it. Maybe you need to restart Tomcat to get it to work efficiently. But usually for a web application server, you should just be available to push more WAR files, new builds to that directory, and it will just work. So now that that has been deployed, we have this URI that we can go to, but let's continue with the last steps here. So HTTPS via Let's Encrypt. No, I don't want that. Do I want to redirect my IP tables? No, I don't want to do that either. Do you want to download the required APKs from HMDM? Yeah, let's do that. So I will get the APKs that I can deploy to this server later on. So that is really nice that is this process. And then we can connect to this server. So now we have the interface up and running. We can enter admin here. It asks for a new password. Let's go with QWERTY for that. Doesn't really matter. So now we are in the interface here, and here we'll ask it to set a new device. So here we can click in order to get the QR code that we will use to attach the device later on. So let's go and look at other features that we have here. First off, we have the applications. Here we can see what applications are actually installed and where they are available. Some of them are available on Google Play, and some of them are deployed to our HTML and could be downloaded here in our files directory. If we look under files, we can see what files are actually uploaded. You can upload any file here. So if you have a requirement that your application needs, let's say, a large data file, you can put it in here and then download it from your MDM. And then here we have the different configurations for your different installers here. So you first have the background mode engine where you can put some things, and then you have the front end manage launcher, and then you have MIUI that you can also put in different configuration to. And these configurations are pretty much what's available here. So you can say if you should have availability to GPS and lock volume, manage volume, and so on. You could also, instead of using MQTT for your push notifications, you could use HTTP polling if you don't have that set up correctly, for instance. It will take a little longer for the HTTP polling, but it's a pretty good choice for some users. You can set up location tracking here, so either you can have GPS, Wi-Fi, or whenever it's available, then you will know where the device is. It's a plugin that is proprietary, so you will not see that in the open source version. Then we have design setting, was color and so on, so you can do a little bit of branding. And then we have applications, what should be shown and hidden in the user interface. Kiosk mode, not available in the free version either. And if you should enroll to mobile data and so on here. And in the kiosk mode, you can actually choose which application, or if you should enable home button and so on. And then we have files specific for this launcher. If we go back from the configuration, we could look into settings here. So here you can set the default design, of course, users groups, general language settings, and under plugins here we can see that we have audit functionality, detail information on the phone, so you can actually look at that, logs from the phone, and then you have this messaging where you can send just text messages to a pager to the phone, and then you have push messages which could use a lot of functionality like update the phone and so on. So if you look here we can see the detail information and so on. Under push messages, if we have a new message here, we could update configuration, we can run a specific application, we can install an application, delete file or dir, purge a dir, or set the permissive mode and so on. So there is a bunch of different functionality here. They have an API, so you could use a REST API to send messages and do a lot of things in the admin interface just via that API, which is really handy. And there's a Swagger documentation for it as well, so it's very easy to get running with. And if you push a message, you could push a custom message, and that message could be handled by your application. So they have an API for installing or an interface to install on your specific application on Android, so you can do different tasks by sending it a push message as well if you want to update your mobile data or your particular file or something like that in your application. So that's really nice. So let's look at signing up a new device. So now I have a really old Pixel device here. It will work with any Android device, I think. I have tried it with Samsung devices, which are already available as Samsung Knox, but this Pixel device works as well. I have a bunch of old Android devices because we are an Android home, so we have a lot of them. So in this first screen here, it says, "Hi there," and it's just a welcome screen. I will tap the screen 7 times, and after a while it will ask me if I really want to do this. So it says you have 3 taps more left. Now it will go into a QR mode. I'm not sure if it picks it up here. QR code setup. I will press next, Now it will look for Wi-Fi networks in my case, because I don't have any set up for that. I will connect to my Wi-Fi here. And now it's getting an IP address, so it should be pretty soon down there. So now it's connecting. The glare on the phone. There we go. So it's connecting and importing the QR code settings. Oh, now it's opening the QR code scanner. So I will scan this QR code here. There, it got it. So now it says set up your device, and it asks more. And then after that, it's setting up your work device. And we'll wait for that. And now it asks me for the ID of this device. So here I can fill in Pixel 1, for instance. Store that. And now it's starting to download different applications to this device. And now it says allow Google to regularly check device for security problems. Yep, let's do that. And it will download the MDM helper and software and so on. And now we have my screen here. So now I see a bunch of different applications. We have Chrome, we have a pager, we have messages, phone, and so on. So we can actually see that we have a bunch of applications already shown here. If we go back now here, we can see that we have a file status. I will switch over to my full screen here. We can see that we have file status, those are green. We can see that I will have this Pixel 1 here. We have permission status. Not everything is installed yet. It's still installing devices. So there is a little bit left to do. But it will surely but slowly be done with that. It all depends on the device. What it can download and so on. But now we could actually go into the launcher here and choose applications, and we know that it showed a bunch of applications on the home screen there. One of them was the let's see if I can remember which ones we saw. We saw messages. So let's see if we can hide messages. Messaging generic, let's hide messages. So I will save and close that. I will go back to functions here. I can do push messages, new message, update configuration for a device. I can put in Pixel here, and it actually gets me the right IMEI number, and I can send that. So now it sends over that push to my phone, and pretty much instantly I saw that it changed on my phone here. So now if we look here, the messaging app is missing. So it disappeared directly when I ran that on the phone. If we switch back to here, we can look at the logs, and we can see here that it's connecting to MQTT and talking to this device. We can also see everything that the phone has done. So this is not a log about what is happening on my server. It's a log about what's happening on the phone. So this is things that the phone is sending back, that it's installing things and so on. So we can see everything that is happening on the device here. If we are using the messaging function, for instance, we can go in here, we can choose the Pixel 1 device again, and we can say, hello world. And if I send that over, it will go over the same messaging platform. And if we go into the device here again, and we go into the pager application, and it can take a little while, it should show up here in the pager application. later on. So there is a bunch of different functionality in this tooling here that you can use in order to take control over a system and a phone, or a fleet of phones, a bunch of different phones. And of course you can go in here and look at the detailed information. So if we look at this old Pixel phone, we can see everything about this phone here. So we can see all the applications that are installed, what OS version it's using. It's actually an old Nexus 6P, so it's not even a Pixel phone. And it's using the open source variant, so we haven't paid for this kiosk mode or anything like that. But it's a pretty nice interface and pretty easy to use and install if you're not running it on multiple servers and trying to scale it up to more of an enterprise setting. Then there is a lot more work in order to get that to work. So this was what I wanted to cover today. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave them down in the comment section down below. And I really hope to see you in the next video.